gentlemen, the Uncutt Podcast.
It's the best intro in the game. It's your boy, the Ace Nick White. Over there, I finally did it. It took 37 episodes. But
I fucked it up.
It's your boy, 24x48. There it is. Too sweet.
Bam!
Wow, that's the gayest thing we've ever done.
It really is.
Panda, how you been? Things going good for you?
It's been such a whirlwind couple weeks still. And like we were talking about it off air, and between the McAfee stuff and GCW this past weekend and like the shit that's still upcoming, whether it's Dynamite or, you know, all the other just crazy shit that's coming, like, god damn, man. No rest for the wicked.
Dude, I really didn't think like this would take off. Like, the show isn't huge. We're not a huge podcast. But just the connections that we've made through the show, and like talking to people from like Subgraps this week about, you know, the show coming up in June. People like, you got to come to ICW. You can't come to you can't go to Action. You got to go to ICW. You can't go to Scenic City.
Yeah.
You gotta come. And I'm like, okay, probably gonna go to ICW July 22nd, 23rd in Chattanooga. We'll see, man. And then GCW the next week in Nashville. Fucking
shout out to Emil.
Shout out to our boy MLJ. Shout out to the good brother John Wayne Murdoch.
Yep. Killed it last past weekend with Hoodfoot.
Dude. I mean, you know, I would love to say that I really loved John's promos, but I couldn't hear a goddamn thing on the GCW.
It was so loud.
Well, no, I don't know if you probably haven't watched it back because you were there live. The audio issues, like every 20 minutes, like the audio would just go out and they'd reset the feed.
No shit.
And it happened during the Cologne Murdoch, like both their promo segments. So I'm like, oh, great. I get to hear what they're going to say to each other. Yes. Dead silence.
You could tell that even there, the audio, like the reverb was off all of a sudden, especially on John Wayne's side. The reverb or something was off as he was talking compared to, and then like Cologne picked up a different mic. It was a different
it's the
audio
Southern
set.
accent. It fucks everybody up, man.
I mean, I guess, but like still though, great damn show. Shout out to our boy Emil. It was great seeing him again. Great to see, of course, Effie and Allie and all the guys there at GCW over the past weekend. So, yeah, on to the next one, bro.
Yeah, on to the next one. On to tonight's interview. Speaking of ICW, a dude who has been fucking murdering it in ICW for like the last few months. Killer match with Broner. Killer match with Dale Patricks. Killer match with the good brother John Wayne Murdoch. He's got Brandon Kirk versus Tommy Vendetta is going to be ridiculous. We'll get there. Tonight's guest, the lovable psychopath himself, Tommy Vendetta.
Better than you.
You're hit. You're bleeding, man.
I ain't got time to bleed.
TJ Vegas is a fucking magician. Tommy, welcome to the
What's
show.
up, y'all? Thanks for having me on, man.
Dude, it's our pleasure. Dude, how's it been going, man? And how's life treating you? Like, hottest up and coming superstar of the deathmatch scene right now, I think.
No, man, life's been good, dude. Chilling, just had a little bit of a rest period. Haven't had a death match in like 2 weeks, so I'm aching to get back at it. But you know, we're getting there. We're creeping back up. It's right around the corner, so I'm amped.
Dude, I'm
man.
sure
ready to
coming
get
off
back
pro,
to it.
you probably needed a little break.
Oh, dude, let me tell you, that dude hits hard. Let me tell you, God
That's
damn.
like that was like the classic, like you hit your enemies hard, but you hit your friends way harder. And I was like, they must be like brothers at this point. Jesus Christ.
Man, the first hit, I was just like, okay, Broner, all right.
So let's start it off. Same question we start everybody off with, man. What was the moment Tommy Vendetta knew he was going to be, or he wanted to be a professional wrestler?
Dude, mine's like kind of weird. Like I grew up obviously wanting to be a pro wrestler for like everybody does. You know, you play the video games and shit like that. You do it at home when they tell you not to do it at home. And then I had I fell away from it when I went into the military because I just didn't have time to like sit down and watch it every week. So I would like check up with it on like YouTube, watch highlights, but I didn't like really like watch it weekly. And then I was deployed and it was like 4:00 in the morning or something. And I believe it was Survivor Series, the one where Sheamus cashes in the Money in the Bank on Roman Reigns and the confetti
at that
and all
show?
that.
Yeah.
I remember sitting down at like 4:00 in the morning and just watching this, and I was marking out huge. Like I was losing my shit, and I was just like, "That's what I'm gonna do. Like I'm gonna get home. I'm gonna get out of the military, and that's what I'm gonna do." And I was like, I remember getting home, calling my parents, and I was like, "This is what I'm gonna do." And my dad was like, "Really?" I mean, they both support me now, so like, but it took a while for them to see the fruits of the labor, so to speak.
Right.
So how do you transition from, hey mom, hey dad, I'm gonna be a pro wrestler, to slamming motherfuckers through glass? Like,
It was kind of like a out of nowhere transition. Like for me, I had like some desire to do a death match prior to the pandemic, but it wasn't something that was like in the forefront of my mind. And then pandemic hit, and I just was like, I want to keep wrestling as much as I can. Like I want to learn as much as I can, no matter like what it is. I want to take every opportunity I can get. And then I had a couple places local in Michigan say like, "Hey, you want to do a death match?" And I was like, I mean, I'm not gonna say no, like because for me, if you want to be able to call yourself the best at something, you got to be the best at everything in that something. And like in pro wrestling, death matches are now a part of that. Like you have to know how to do that, in my opinion, if you want to call yourself the best. And so I just kind of dove in head first and went all in, and then fell in love with it. And I was like, all right, wait a second. We got something here. We got something here.
So you transitioned from, normal professional wrestling into death matches. Who was the first one against? And then I always mean to ask deathmatch guys this question. What's going through your mind right before you go through the curtain?
is my insurance paid up?
What's that?
Is my insurance paid up?
Oh, dude, straight up, I won't lie to you. My first one was at Mr. Chainsaw Pro Wrestling up in Kalkaska, Michigan, with Jimmy Lloyd.
Oh, of course.
And I remember the day of, I woke up, and like from the moment I woke up, I was just like, it was like that pit in your stomach. You're just like, oh man. And it is so like we're driving up to the show, everyone's joking around, and I was just kind of like, this is cool, guys. Then we get there, and I'm like real nervous, and then ended up having like a really fun match. It was dope. It was a great introduction into like the deathmatch world. And I just like I caught the bug right away. Like I was like, all right, hold up, this is where we're at now. We got to go for it because this shit's too much fun.
So as you're like you just mentioned, Mr. Chainsaw and XICW, as you've traveled around, and I know we're both from Michigan, but throughout the Midwest, let's say with this one, and you've met some of the different promoters. What's one of the biggest things that you've been able to notice is the difference between the promoters that you've worked with?
I would say the ones that I continue to work with and like strive to go back to, it's mostly like just they know that you are worth something. They're gonna pay you your worth. They're gonna put you into opportunities to succeed, not into an opportunity to fail. There's been some promotions where I've been in where they stack all the cards against you, shoot, and it's like, okay, man, that we're supposed to be working this. Like, come on, guys. But for me, I would say that's probably the biggest thing out of it for me is just making, like, having that respect, having that trust between the two parties, between myself and the promoter. Being able to bounce ideas. Like, I'm constantly, especially with places in Michigan, I'm always like pitching ideas. I'm throwing like my 2 cents in, just because I want to know, in my head, I want to know that I'm like actually on the right track. But I also want to do something that I think is going to be best for everyone involved, and sends the fans home either wanting more or like giving them exactly what they needed in that moment.
So when you get to the show, and you know, depending on your spot on the card, you know, there's the main event guys who get everything fucking loaded up, weapon wise. But if you're in like the middle of the card, how do you go, I fucking want that bundle of tubes, or I want to do this spot? What's the thought process going into it in terms of how you lay out a match for a death match?
Usually for me, just kind of like how I am, I treat it like a normal wrestling, like a normal wrestling environment. Because to me, it's just wrestling. You're wrestling. You're adding danger. That's all. And like in a normal match, you have guys who will be like, "Hey, is anybody doing a Canadian Destroyer tonight?" So like.
And 7
I
dudes
usually like, yeah. I usually go around and I'm like kind of just like getting the vibe from everybody as to like what they're gonna do. And if I'm like earlier in the card, I'm not gonna go out there and have like a 150 light tube match for no reason, like unless that's exactly what they want. Like at the end of the day, for me, it boils down to what the promoter wants, what whoever you're facing in that matchup wants. But I usually kind of like gauge off the card. I'm like, all right, less light tubes, more barbed wire, like kind of in that way. Like with Broner, we didn't need a lot because I knew he was just gonna beat the fuck out of him.
This is gonna seem like a stupid kind of question, but I'm gonna ask this. As a deathmatch wrestler, where does the line go where you're like, you know what, we're not gonna do that? Whereas somebody come up to you and you're like, hey, I want to try and do this. And you're like, fuck that. That's a little too much for me.
I think I'm usually down for pretty much everything. I usually like my motto is fuck it, I'll do it once. The only thing I've ever like straight up shot down, I was about to wrestle with Chuck Stein, and he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, are you cool with syringes?" And I was like, No, I'm actually all good on that, man. Thank you. And he was like, "Come on, bro. Come on. You'll take a gusset plate, but you're not going to take a syringe." And I was like, "Yeah, pretty much."
Yep, that's it. I love that question because I was thinking it for later. But I love that's fine. But I love that because like every time we have a deathmatch guy on, one of us ends up asking that question. It's so cool to hear. Like, what's the fucking thing that you're just not gonna do? Like Murdoch's like, I'm never gonna do toothpicks again. Like,
oh yeah, he's told me that one.
Yeah, or like the toothpicks like stuck in his head and stuck in his back, and then like a month later it just popped out.
Ugh.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, man, it'd be like that sometimes though.
Dude, just crazy. Like. Just finding glass like 5 days later and shit.
Dude, that's the worst, man. Let me tell you.
Oh, man. So who have been your favorite people to do death matches with? And regular matches as well. Like, who are your favorite people to work? Who are the people that kind of you feel like you could express yourself the best with?
I would say deathmatch side of things. Me and Murdoch have, since the first match we ever had, we had great chemistry. Like everything always felt smooth with him. I never felt like I was in over my head, like anything like that. Hoodfoot was probably like my favorite death match that I've had, period. Like,
I love that guy.
Downright, like Broner's up there real close, Murdoch's up there real close. But for me, it's because of the whole like aspect to it. Like it was in his hometown, in front of his people. Like his dad was there, so like it was such a cool moment. And then we went out there, and I like to think we delivered. And that was probably like one of my favorite moments so far in my career. Just like rolling out of the ring and having everyone sitting there and be like, "Holy shit!" And I was, in my head, that's the same damn thing I was saying. I was like, "God damn, all right." And then I would definitely say Beverly, Bobby Beverly, 100% would work with Bev again. Me and him at Chattanooga, that one was another special one to me. It was my sister's first time seeing me in a death match.
Oh,
So
nice.
I got to scar her and my stepsister for life, so that was nice. I would say normal side of wrestling. I always love working with Jason Hotch. To me, if you're talking about like local Michigan, Ohio guys, he's like that next guy up. He's got everything. He's got the charisma. He's got the in-ring ability. He can talk on the mic. Like, and he's slowly getting his swagger. Like he's understanding. Like you actually are a good ass motherfucker, dude. Like act like it. I would say Aaron O'Ryan, my mentor. I always love wrestling Aaron because it's like Broner. We beat the absolute shit out of each other. And then probably I've only worked with him once in a singles, but Trey Miguel, me and him had a really fun singles match at Horror Slam. It must have been last year. But it was honestly like I rewatched it the other day, just trying to get some ideas for a match I had yesterday, and I just rewatched it, and I was like, man, that was really entertaining. Like I usually can't watch my matches because I nitpick them, but if I can sit back and watch it and like it's entertaining, I usually say it's the guy in there with me who made it entertaining because that's usually how it works.
So first of all, shout out to Hoodfoot, my 14-year-old daughter's favorite deathmatch wrestler.
That's got a good one. That's a good one.
Hoodfoot is amazing. I love watching him. But for my question I have for you, transitioning from traditional wrestling to deathmatch wrestling, if you could have talked to yourself when you first got into your journey, what would have been the biggest piece you would want to tell yourself in reflection? Besides, this is going to hurt a lot.
Honestly, it kind of hurt pretty much exactly how I thought it was going to hurt. There's a couple that have hurt a little bit more, but for me, I would probably go in and tell myself, just breathe, slow down and breathe. Like rewatching some of my earlier ones, like you can tell, like, oh, you're fucking in it, dude. Like you're bleeding, your body's just like, oh my god, we got. So like, I think that was like my biggest takeaway. Especially after Chicago, getting to work with all the talent that I got to work with in Chicago and pick their brains afterwards. That definitely helped me like realize just in wrestling in general, like when you slow down and you take those moments and you build everything up, it makes everything mean that much more when you finally pay it off. And I feel like my match with Hoodfoot, we did a really good job on that. My match with Broner, we did really good. But like that to me is like the biggest thing that I would tell myself back when I first started was just slow down, motherfucker, and take a deep breath because you'll be all right.
So going back to Murdoch for a second, because we talked about him previously, the match you had with Murdoch in the pit. I heard the story, but I only heard it in passing. Is it true you almost didn't make it because you were at a wedding?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I came straight from it and literally had the tuxedo on, changed, went right into got there, walked right into the pit, wrestled, walked back, put other clothes on, and left. It was like I was literally there for maybe the span of like a 35-minute stretch.
Nice.
But honestly, like that's probably my favorite wrestling memory to date. Like for just like a cool story to be able to tell, like that's probably my favorite one.
You definitely couldn't tell that anything was going on because y'all just went out and beat the fuck out of each other. That was the most like that was the most underground feeling setup I have
Oh,
ever
yeah.
seen for a
Dude,
wrestling show.
I
Because like
vibed it,
Broner
bro.
and Kyle just went out and had like a bar fight, and then
Yeah, I
here
was
came you guys
vibing
just
it.
whacking each other with shit.
I
was
was
like,
vibing it heavy, bro.
yeah, dude, it was one of those where you're like, I feel like I'm watching something I'm not supposed to see
That's
right
like,
now.
yeah.
But I loved every
I was
second
like,
of it, so it was
we're
rad.
like we're like out in the woods. I was like, this feels like a fucking prohibition of wrestling right now, man. This is crazy.
Oh man.
So throughout your journey, you now with this story, you don't have to say any promotion by name because I don't want to catch you in any heat here. I've heard stories, even with promotions in Michigan, about them having issues as far as like really backwoods style type of promotions, and they're in the middle of nowhere type of Egypt type of shit, if you get what I'm saying. Uh, what would be the craziest travel experience that you've had to deal with something like of that nature?
Man, there's so many. There's so many. I would say one of the funniest ones I had, and I'll say the promotion, they won't book me anymore anyway. I was working for Pure Pro Wrestling out in Flint. They had a show in Plymouth, I want to say, and the locker room was it was like their storage closet for like where they had all the chairs and tables and stuff. It was at like a small VFW. So there's like 20 of us, and there was like you could walk outside and stuff. So there was like room to like maneuver outside. But the only thing that was between you and the people was the curtain. So like you had to be real quiet when you were in that room. And I remember I had just finished wrestling. I was getting changed in that room. I was like right behind the curtain, and Malice went out for his Gideon Malice went out for his match. Busted through the curtain, and the curtain dropped, and I was just standing there in compression shorts, and I was like, ah, fuck. And then I picked it up and like held it up. I was like, guys, you gotta help me out here. Help me out, guys. But yeah, man, honestly, there are so many. I got changed in a tent, like a very small space tent, in the middle of summer. So that was fun.
Oh yeah,
You get everybody's
pure
nice
Michigan.
sweat and funk and all that. That was great. But yeah, man, like that's part of the journey, though. Like that's me, Aaron, and like all the Death Threat guys. We always joke that those are we'll talk in the car moments. And it's like whenever something happens at a show, we'll usually like that. We like is stupid or like something funny. We'll like look at each other from across the room, and it's like like, all right, we're gonna talk in the car about that one, man. Don't worry.
Do you fucking believe this shit right here?
Yeah, man, so many.
I'll never forget. I worked at an indie show down here in Tennessee like 5 or 6 years ago. It was the same thing, like little small hallway where everybody's getting dressed, and then the two curtains, and a fight legitimately broke out in that little small room. Like two dudes who had heat from like 2 years ago, first time they'd seen each other, and like there's a match going on in the ring, and you just see the fans, like, because you could, they had the monitor set up in the back, and you just see the fans, they're all turning around. What the fuck's happening? Like 2 feet behind. They're like pulling dudes apart. They're screaming and cussing. It's a family show.
Oh man, that's the worst.
Oh dude, I love independent wrestling. It's the best.
It really is.
So you've got Brandon and Akira coming up. You've worked like the fucking who's who of deathmatch wrestling right now. Is there anybody that's on the list that you haven't gotten to yet?
Honestly, anybody, man. I'll take on anybody. I would say Clint Margera is one. I'd say Cole Radrick. I worked him in a normal match, but I didn't work him in a death match, and I would definitely love to. And I'd probably say Effie. Effie would be fun in a death match too.
Effie's fine.
Oh yeah, always. But I have a secret goal right now to get every single member of Death Threat Army to have a death match with me before the end of the year. They don't all know it yet, but I'm slowly getting them. I already got Broner, and that was the one where I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to get him. That one might be difficult because he's out tearing it up everywhere.
Yeah.
I was like, I might be able to get one of my other guys. Could I be like, you're not even booked, dude. Why don't you just come and do the death match with me? Come on, dude.
You're not doing anything Saturday. Come on, just bleed a little.
Yeah, you just wrestled yesterday. You got nothing going on today. Come on. It'll be easy, dude. I won't even make you bleed a lot. You'll just bleed a little bit.
Things you can only say to your wrestling friends.
No toothpicks, no gusset plates. We're good.
Yeah. We'll just do a couple of light tubes just to, just so I can say it's off the list.
It's mostly for the noise, dude. They don't even really hurt.
You'll be fine. So as we've talked about, Cologne and Hoodfoot and John Wayne and so many others, which one of these guys was the hardest hitting bastard that you had to deal with too?
And why was it Justin Kyle?
I would say Justin Kyle. Justin Kyle's up there. Broner was up there. But like, I would say like most physically demanding death match that I've gone through was probably my first match with Akira. Because I was relatively new to the scene. Like I still was like getting my feet wet. And I just remember the day after, like my back got all shredded up in that one. And the next day I woke up and I sat up out of bed and I had a sweatshirt on that night. And I literally had to peel the sweatshirt off my back to get it like off just so I could take another shower. And I was just, for like 3-4 days after, I just remember like walking around. I was like, oh man, we got to work like this. This is gonna suck. And that was the first one where I was like, oh man, do you really want to do this all the time, bud? But I would say that's probably like the hardest hitting one that I've had where I felt it like days after. Most of the time I'm like, I'm right as rain the next day. Like it freaks my girlfriend out sometimes because I'll come home and I'll be like, just get me in a shower. Just get me in a shower. And then the next morning I wake up and I'm like, oh, a little stiff, but we'll be all right.
So I know the reaction to like, hate to put it this way, regular wrestlers when they tell people in the real world, hey, this is what I do. People kind of look at you funny. They're like, wait, you're a wrestler?
Yeah.
When you add in that adjective that is deathmatch, though, how do people like at your shoot job, family, things like that, how do they react?
The shoot at my shoot job, it was funny because when I first started working there, I didn't really tell them a lot. Like they knew I was a pro wrestler and stuff, but I didn't really like explain it. Some of them thought I was a UFC fighter, and I was like, that's not at all the case.
Yeah.
And then I think it was after Tennessee because I came in the next day and I had my forehead was still all like fresh. So I came in the next day and I had like wrap going around it and I had a hat on to like kind of hide it as best as I could. And the girl I was working with was like, what happened? And I was like, oh, I was getting a light tube to the forehead and it just broke in his hand and it just a little bit of a gusher. It's no big deal. And she was like, what was he doing with the light tube? I was like, he was stabbing me with it. I mean, that's how you were going to get color. And she was like, what? And I was like, oh, yeah, here. And then I pulled up my Instagram. I'm like scrolling through these like videos of me like just like screaming with blood. And then at work, I'm usually just calm, relaxed. I'm like, right now, I'm just normal. And then like there was one day I was going to wrestle Joel Bateman at Horror Slam and I was working. So I was going straight from work to go and do that. And it was like 20-30 minutes before I was getting ready to leave. And they're like the person I was working with, they said they could see like a shift in who I was in like those, like, cause I was like slowly shifting out of like my normal life into it's time to be a savage. And she was like, that was honestly like really cool, but also in the same breath, very, very scary. But it's fun. I love messing with people about it. Like they'll be like, what'd you do this week? And I'll be like, oh, nothing crazy. I just got thrown through some glass. got speared through a door. We actually got to go out to this really nice steak restaurant. Oh yeah, and then I got pile drove onto some thumbtacks. All in all, it was a pretty chill weekend. Pretty chill. And they're just like,
We went to Home Depot and Bed Bath & Beyond.
yeah. You just slip something casual in between everything. You're like, yes, bloody, bloody, bloody. Oh, and then we also went to Walmart. I got some cool new pants. Those were cool. They were on sale. But yeah, man, pretty chill. Pretty chill.
So, all right. Van Damme. All right, bring it in, Dad. All right.
I'm sorry, I'm having a good time.
It's true. As you keep doing this and you keep taking the hits, you keep taking the gushers, the light bulbs, the gusset plates, everything but toothpicks, what inspires you to keep going?
Excuse me. I don't know. It kind of depends on who you ask. If you ask some people in my family, they probably think I'm a masochist and I just love the pain. The way I explain it to people I work with, just so I scare them and mess with them, I'm always like, you know how like on a day-to-day basis you wish you could just snap and murder someone? This is a way to get away with it, like in a legal way, and you just kind of get real close, but then you just don't go through with it. You like get them to the brink, and then you're like, all right, man, you're good. We'll see you tomorrow.
Isn't that exactly what Zach Monstar said?
Literally what Zach Monstar said.
Like,
yeah, it's
verbatim.
honestly, that's kind of what it is, and like it's also like this weird feeling of like being like a superhero or a supervillain for me. Excuse me. Because like you like one night you're driving back from like a show in a different state, you're still got blood all over you, and then the next day I'm sitting at a front desk at a gym saying hi to people, asking them if they need help with anything, like, and no one knows. And it's like, man, you start to feel like a superhero, man. Like it's dangerous in a way because like there's sometimes where like you get on this rush, like you have a great weekend where you have like a banger and another one and then another one, and then you get home and you're like, you're Tommy fucking Vendetta, like you're shit. Like someone's like, hey, pick that up. It's like, fuck you. I'm sorry, I'll pick it up. Okay. There's like a small adjustment in that way, but it's honestly, it's such a cool feeling. I wouldn't trade it for anything, man.
So Robbie's not here, our normal co-host. I'm gonna ask one of his favorite questions because he always does this when Matt's not here and he steals Matt's questions. I'm gonna steal one of Robbie's. What is your opinion on intergender wrestling in terms of, let's go specifically death matches?
I love it, man. I've always been a fan of intergender wrestling. I think that there are some really fun stories that you can tell with them. I think a lot of times intergender matches get dampened by dudes trying to get themselves over by making themselves look like they're a fucking Brock Lesnar because they can yeet some 120, 130 pound chick all around the ring. And those matches I don't like because I don't feel like it serves the purpose that it should. Granted, there are like, you can have a really great intergender match where they're still yeeting each other all over the place. But for me, like I love them. I've had some really fun ones over my time in wrestling so far. I'd love to have more. They're like Mickey Knuckles. I'd love to fucking have a death match with her. Like she would beat the absolute dog shit out of me, and I'd love every second of it.
This is where I normally make the joke that if Mickey Knuckles actually shows up. But anyway, she showed us one time, and I've made the joke ever since. I love Mickey. It's okay. It's all forgiven. I just love to make that joke. If she ever finds out about this, she's going to kill me. Yeah, Matthew.
Go ahead. You felt like you had. You sure?
If you had something you wanted to say.
You sure? I don't want to impose.
No, go ahead.
Especially without
show, man. I just run the machines.
Get the fuck out of here. Especially without Rain Man here. This is just kind of odd.
God, it's weird not having Rain Man here.
God, I mean,
Dude,
at
so
least we don't
Robbie,
have the
you
clicks.
understand, and Robbie's going to listen to this later, and he's going to be like, I can't believe they said that. But Robbie's like the goofiest of the three of us, but then he gets on the show and like just starts snapping off facts, and you're like, what the? How much research have you done this week? Holy fuck!
Full blown.
I didn't know who this guy was 6 days ago.
He is full blown Rain Man, dude.
He's fucking Rain Man, bro. We love
I
him.
love it, man. I love it.
We love you, Robbie. Sorry. So, as we're winding down, let me ask you kind of a different kind of question.
Yeah.
Have you ever had one of those don't meet your heroes moments when it's come to behind the curtain where, man, I really love this person so much, and then you get behind the curtain, it's like, man, this dude's a fucking dick. Fuck this guy. Have you had that?
I've never really had one where it's like a don't meet your heroes. I've had funny interactions where it doesn't go the way you thought it would go. Like the first time I met Scott Steiner, we were doing a bit up at Dow Diamond in Michigan. We were wrestling in between innings, so we would have like 1 minute matches in between the innings.
Yep.
And he was there to go against Gideon Malice, and he was walking through our locker room. And I walked up to him and I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" I introduced myself. Didn't even look at me, just kept looking past me. And he was like, "Where's Joe?" Who is the promoter? And I was like, "I think he's that way." Proceeds to just nod and never stop and acknowledge it. Just kept on walking. And then it was about like 10 minutes later, we're all sitting around and everyone's like, "Hey, did you get a chance to meet Scott Steiner?" And everyone's like, "Yeah. I feel like he's kind of like in a zone or something because he just kind of no-sold it." And I was like, okay, I'm just glad that it wasn't me because I was really getting the vibe that like maybe I'm just a piece of shit or something. Like maybe I like got like a booger out my nose and he was like, "Don't touch me, you weird nasty bitch," like something. But I mean that I wouldn't call it like I've had a don't meet your heroes moment. I've honestly every time I meet someone who I've watched beforehand or been a fan of since becoming a wrestler. They've always been great, lived up to the hype, sat and talked to me, especially once I was a wrestler myself. Like I've had so many conversations with top level guys and like dudes that I remember sitting in the crowd watching and just going, "Holy shit, man."
Well, then let me. I'm taking this question from Dad. Let me flip that question back in a little bit of a different way. Then, have you had a starstruck type of moment then behind the curtain with any of your people that you've loved,
Ooh.
where you had to be like, "Oh shit, I'm really here right now."
Oh man, I would say
Probably not Scott Steiner at Dow Diamond. Shout out to the Great Lakes Loons, but
I would have to say when I first met Alex Shelley, I got to be in a you fucking know the vibes, dude.
Yeah.
I was in a 10-man tag with him at IPW in Kalamazoo, and I remember when, like we got to the show and I was like, "What are we doing?" And they were like, "Oh, it's gonna be boom 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 and Alex Shelley against you guys." And I was like, "I'm sorry, you said you mean one half of the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley? That's who you mean?" And they were like, "Yeah." And then he showed up like 20 minutes later and he walked in and I swear to God, and I'm literally wrestling him May 21st. I'll tell him the story to his face. I don't care. I grabbed Aaron by his chest and I was just like, "That's one half of the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley." And he just no-sold it. He was just like, "Yeah." Like walked over and was like, "What's up, man? How's it going?" And he's like, "Oh, great to see you." And I was like, "Hey, man, how's it going? Really nice to meet you." He's like, "Great to meet you." And I was just like, "He said it was great to meet me." So I would definitely say that. But then my other one, it wasn't necessarily like starstruck, but I had like butterflies in my stomach for the match. And I'm like nervous before a match, but I've never had like butterflies where I've like you just feel like, "Oh my God, I don't know what's gonna happen," like that type of thing. There was two when I first wrestled Trey. I was like, I've always been a huge fan of him, like watching all of his stuff. The dude is by far and away one of the most innovative wrestlers out there. He's one of the smoothest wrestlers out there. And then when I wrestled Effie, when that got announced, I remember seeing the flyer, and I sat there for like 10 minutes, and I was just like, holy shit, this is gonna happen. What the fuck? And I loved it, man. I'd love to have another one with it. Like, just so much fun. But those would probably be the only ones that I would say where I was like, oh shit. And then probably Rhino, when I wrestled Rhino, that was more so like, all right, if you fuck up this match, I'm gonna make you jump it off a bridge. I swear to God. And I was in my head something fierce going into that one.
Can I just say though, and maybe you can agree, isn't Effie one of just the nicest human beings on the planet?
Dude, genuinely one of the sweetest human beings. One of the sweetest human beings.
He's totally fine. Sorry, Dad. I've taken like the last 15 minutes. Go ahead.
You're good, man. Somebody has to take Rain Man's 30 minutes, so we're good.
Sorry, Dad.
No, but it is the Alex Shelley thing. You're definitely in the right group for people who'll pop for Alex Shelley between, Captain Michigan over there and the guy whose first promo picks in the business, he literally had a stripe drawn under his eyes.
Oh, fuck.
So
hell yeah.
I was a huge.
I just saw Alex Shelley last Saturday.
Yes, I know.
I've
mentioned it.
I'm so excited to work with him, man. He is one of my all-time favorites, hands down.
So before you go out for a match, what's the pregame like? What is it? A lot of pacing? Is it the headphones? Is it?
Honestly, man, there's really not a lot of pregame. That's like the one thing that all the guys in DTA I think always like jokingly give me shit. There's like about 5 seconds once my music starts hitting where I will kind of just do like this back and forth, and I just kind of smile to myself, and then I just go out. And I think it's genuinely like I don't really have a gimmick. Like, I'm not really getting into like the headspace of being anything or of portraying something. I'm genuinely just going out there and being me. And I think that's just, I've always been that way. Like, what you see is what you get. Like, I ain't gonna hype it up. There's not gonna be a lot of beauty to it. Like, I don't need the flashy gear. I don't need the extravagant entrance and all that stuff. Like, I just kind of like sit back and I'm waiting, and then about like a couple minutes before, I'll pace back and forth, like thinking everything through and like going through what I'm gonna do out there and stuff. And then usually like that music hits, and then I'm just waiting for the beat to drop, bobbing back and forth, and I'm like, let's fucking do this, man. We're about to have some fun.
Nice.
All right, this will be my last question I have for you, because it's going to be a variation of Fuck, Marry, Kill, but we're going to do it pro wrestling style. So it's going to be wrestle, death match, or tag team. Okay. And your options are John Wayne Murdoch, Effie, and Rhino.
Ooh. So I gotta be in a tag team with one of them.
Yep.
I'd say Effie, because we would have so much fun.
And you'd be fine.
Death match, I would say Rhino.
Nice. I was hoping that was where that was going to go.
That's where I was too.
I've already done a death match with Murdoch a ton. Like, me and him can have a really sweet wrestling match, but I've literally probably like played it out in my head about 1,000 times, taking the apron pile driver through a door. Like, that's just in my brain. That's something that my life will never be fully fulfilled until that happens.
Oh, man. So I got 2 parts. One's going to be my last actual question, and then our closer. So last actual question: do you feel like, because I've asked John this, people forget you can actually wrestle? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just had a thing in Michigan. Yesterday was I had a gauntlet match. I wrestled for I think it was 23, 24 minutes. And it was no hardcore, no deathmatch stuff, just straight up wrestling. And leading up to this match, that's kind of been the accidental story that got developed, where it was a bunch of people were talking shit oh, he's just a deathmatch guy now. And I was like, nah, I'm just able to be a bad motherfucker in both. There's a difference. And I like, especially you look at a lot of these guys like Masada, like that dude went on fucking AEW and just was like, okay, I gotta wrestle, bet, and just went out and was an amazing wrestler because he's an amazing wrestler. I feel like a lot of these dudes, like Akira's like could be a world-renowned technical wrestler wherever he went. Like the dude's putting in work. He's constantly studying. Like there's tons of dudes on the deathmatch scene. I remember when I first broke into wrestling, I worked at Rockstar Pro, and Alex Colon was there tagging. And he was doing his bit down there for a while, and it wasn't like he did a couple of hardcore matches and stuff, but it wasn't deathmatch stuff. And I remember just sitting back and watching it, and I was like, man, this dude's fucking good. I was like, man, I suck at wrestling, guys. Fuck. And so like I definitely feel like once you stay in it for a minute and you're taking tubes for a while, and everybody gets used to seeing blood in your pictures and stuff. The second you post like you locking in a rest hold, everyone's like, "What the fuck is this? What is this? You can't wrestle. You do tube things." So I feel like every now and again, it's for me at least. I like doing a good mixture of both, just so that way I can make sure that everybody knows I'm not just a deathmatch guy. I'm not just a normal match guy. I'm an every match guy, because that's where that's how in my head, that's how I'm gonna go down in history as being one of the greatest, is being able to be the best at everything. That's why like I consider guys like Rob Van Dam, Sabu, like those are some of my guys like that.
Friend of the show, Sabu.
Like, some of the best, because like Van Dam's out there doing some crazy hardcore shit, but he's also like a fucking amazing wrestler. Like same thing with Rhino. Rhino was doing hardcore shit. Like Team 3D. Like there's so many like talented guys that come from like deathmatch or that extreme lifestyle that everyone's just like typecast. Like Tommy Dreamer's a dope ass wrestler. And everyone's just like, he's Tommy Dreamer, he's gonna do hardcore, and it's like, no, he's Tommy Dreamer, he's gonna wrestle, guys, come on. Yeah. That's how I kind of look at everything, where it's like I want to be the best at everything. So if I gotta like hold up, I gotta put a light tube down and lock in a wrist lock on a motherfucker just to let people know that, like, hey dude, I can still wrestle, like I'll do it, I don't care. But I definitely would agree with him in saying like people do forget you can wrestle.
Good shit, man. You kind of already answered the second half of my question, which is what do you want your legacy to be when you're done? So,
oh, genuinely, like for a long time, this is like a recent revelation for me. For a long time, I wanted to be the guy that's like in the big spotlights. You know, I'm signed to the big contracts. I make the big money and stuff like that. And then I feel like there was a stretch of time where I kind of got lost in like that being my driving force, because I was like driving 5 hours for nothing. Like you'd get a throwaway match, you'd get squashed, and I was like, oh, but it's at a real good indie place, and it's exposure.
I'm gonna get exposure.
And then I just remember I sat down at one point. I kind of took a couple, like I think I took like a month off of wrestling in general, and I was just like, I kind of like sat around and didn't think about it, didn't watch it, just took my mind completely off of it. And then I was at a show and was just kind of watching like the matches go on and like everything happening, and I was just like, man, what the fuck was I doing, man? This is just fun. Like, I'm just trying to have fun. And like, the legacy that I would love to leave is fame and all that stuff is like real cool. And it's awesome to be able to like be in this position that guys like Roman Reigns and Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley. And I do hope that one day I can get to that position where I am like on posters and everybody's sitting there like I'm a household name type thing. Like I would love that. But if at the end of the day, like 20 years from now, motherfuckers are about to have a death match and they're like, oh, let's do this thing. I remember seeing Tommy Vendetta do that one time at ICW in Jersey. Like that to me, that's my legacy. That's like being able to leave memories to like anybody who's a fan of this shit and just spreading that fun, that love. Because like that's the one that like my girlfriend talks about it all the time now. It's like deathmatch community, especially. It's like it's such a welcoming community. Like everybody's always so nice. Like it's a collective group of people who just love violence, and like if that's my legacy, if that's it, like all these people just love violence and they're gonna love me for it, and I'll be that cult loving dude, like like that certain people know. Like I don't need the fame, I don't need the money, I don't need the big houses. Like I wanted it for a while, and then I realized like that's not my driving force anymore. Like I just want to have fun. I want to wrestle. I want to have dope ass matches that make people go, oh, dude, I just like you guys did. I just rewatched your Broner match. Like that's the shit that makes me feel good. Like I love hearing that people are like, dude, that match was dope. I had to watch it again. Like you guys got to go at it again because I wasn't there live. I want to see it live. Like that to me is legacy, and that's what I love about like everything that we do in indie wrestling. That like you get that.
I always say like my judge of how good a match is if my 5-year-old will sit and pay attention to it. She has watched you and Broner 2 times, so that's you got the Abby seal of approval.
Hell yeah, I'll take that, man. That's all I need. That's my legacy right there, dude. Hell yeah.
So
Tommy's for the kids.
Dude, hey man, my 5-year-old is very crazy, and I don't understand why the only thing she can pay attention to is death matches. But for some reason, she does it. So I'll just sit here and like throw an ICW show on and be like, I gotta run the other room. You good? No, I'm fine. Anyway,
comes back, it's just
that Vampirina. She's fine.
She's using like a cheese grater on Elmo and shit.
I just worry that one of these days I'm going to take a nap and I'm going to wake up and my son's going to have fucking skewers out of the side of his head.
Yeah, I will say the Holland family, they're like the Michigan wrestling family. They're the ones that come to the shows with their kids in the ponchos and stuff.
Yeah.
Every time I see them, they're like, you got to tell these kids to stop trying to wrestle on Legos. I swear. And I'm like, guys.
That reminds me, I gotta give a shout out to Donald Holland for tweeting at me nonstop on Thursday. Is this episode coming out tonight? Is this gonna happen? I'm like, yes, it's coming. It's gonna come on Sunday now, but it's coming.
I love Don, man. That's
he
my
seems
guy,
like a great
bro.
guy, man. Well, last segment of the show is always the same, man. I'm gonna give you full screen. Go ahead and pitch your socials, pitch what you got upcoming, man. Just whatever you want to tell people. It's all yours,
sure,
Tommy.
man.
It's been a fucking pleasure,
sure.
dude.
Dude, we got a lot of death matches coming. You know, we got ICW rolling up here in Boston. I'm looking forward to it. We also got ICW in Jersey. Definitely feel free to follow me on Twitter at Tommy Vendetta. You can follow me on Instagram. I believe it's at Lovable Psychopath _DTA, and look me up on Facebook, just Tommy Vendetta. You'll find me on that. But other than that, man, that's pretty much it. Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate you.
Dude, it's been a blast. So much fun. I knew it would be. Just talking to you like leading up to this, I'm like, this is just gonna be a fun conversation.
Nah, dude, definitely. We got to do it again. We definitely.
Hell yeah, man, dude.
More than
maybe
welcome.
we hook something up for. I don't know when you're gonna get into town for Chattanooga, but maybe we hook something up that weekend.
Nah, for sure.
Because I'm gonna be there. This has pretty much clinched it that I have to come to Chattanooga now for that. It was either that or Scenic City 2 weeks later, and Matt Griffin's gonna yell at me, but I'm gonna pick ICW. It looks like.
Fuck yeah!
It's been
Tell
a blast.
Danny I sold you. Tell Danny.
I'll message him. We DM. All right, Tommy, man, I appreciate it.
All right, man, appreciate y'all. You
Much
take
love,
care.
man.
Have a good night.
See you in July, brother.
All right, peace.
What a great dude.
Fucking great guy, dude.
Great dude.
Every week lately, it's been great guy after great guy, and I already know that next week we can have another great guy. This is a good friend of mine. Representing Resolute Wrestling, episode 2 of Promotions You Should Know. We're going to have Caleb Courageous on the show. Dude, Resolute Wrestling with their new heavyweight champion, a guy you might know, Panda, Draven Frost.
My boy.
Dude, I might see if we can get Draven in too.
Shout out to Super Dad.
Shout out to Super Dad. Love him.
Super Dad's the best.
So, for Oh, did I fucked it up. For you
Come
boy,
on.
Love Panda 24x48. Make sure to check him out on MySpace. I am
Tumblr, bitch.
Oh, Tumblr. I'm sorry. Your Tumblr gets a little spicy though. I don't know if we should tell people. It's not as bad as Robbie's, but you know.
Yeah, no, don't subscribe to my Only Pandas.
No, and definitely never ever watch this.
Better run, you better do what you can. Don't wanna see no blood, don't be a macho man.
You can see me.
That's
Normally you can't see me for this. I'm like hidden right there the whole time.
Yeah, no, we actually can see your face. And
Like the whole time I'm just like, I'm here.
Maybe if you're good, I'll give you the 2 spot again next week. We'll see.
Don't fucking lie.
No, you're going to be in the 3 spot.
Yeah, Rain Man's back.
It fits the whole thing. You're down there. The guest is it's great. But for him, I
fucked him 2 out of 3 times now.
I know, but I got the first one, and that's all that really matters.
And it's been downhill ever since for you.
Dude, I'm tired. Okay.
Like, left is right, right is left.
Hey, you know what you have to do, right? You got to do it because he's not here.
I'm not doing it.
At least say the catchphrase.
Okay, I got it. I'll say the catchphrase. I hate you guys.
For Matt Minnick,
Yes, I got out of it. Yes. See you next week,
Matt,
Robbie. Enjoy this lack of cut. 2.5 clicks. 1 panda.